I'm always afraid when I receive posts, you know, and I'm always thinking like, what issues do I have to deal with now?
Yeah, it's never, it became just like a task. It's never like something good or like a letter from someone or...
Exactly, and all the letters that hit my mailbox are from the government. Yeah, it's like migration or taxes or, I don't know, a court. I got in trouble last week. I didn't know this. So I have the insurance company, and apparently there was a payment I missed from April of last year, over a year. And so they sent me the kind of like, well, I didn't pay, but I didn't know that I didn't pay it. So they sent me the bill through the how do you say, the city hall, right? And so the city hall sends you a letter, right? Like saying, yeah, well, you need to come and pay, or we're going to send the police. And so I went there, and I got the bill, and then I spoke with the insurance company, and they were like, yeah, well, you need to pay before, I don't know, January or whatever. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And so I paid some bills. And I paid, I think, like 3 invoices in advance, you know, just like to be sure. And I'm just like, okay, I'm going to pay like 3 in advance, because you receive like 5 at a time, and then you just start clicking on them. And so I paid like 3 invoices in advance. And I was like, okay, this has been done, you know. So last week, I am processing right now my permanent residence, and they asked me for like a printout of the record of debts, right, that I have, like my credit score or something. And I went to the town hall, to the city hall to get it. And there was this sheet still open from the insurance. And I'm like, no, I already paid that. Anyway, so I called the insurance company, and I'm like, okay, tell me I'm going to pay it right now on the phone, so that I can make sure that it goes to the right invoice, right? And so they're like, oh, no, sorry, this is not with us anymore. We sent it to the court. And I'm like, what?
Oh,
so
wow.
I received, they sued me for 250 euros, for 250 francs. They sued me, and so I had to go to a court, and I had to take them proof that I had already paid the bill and whatever, and I'm like, yeah, here it is. And they're like, okay, so I had to pay, so the original bill was 250 francs. With the interest and everything, I had to pay 470 francs. And then the court, because of all the processing, they charged me another 200 francs. So a fucking invoice that it was just a misunderstanding of 250 francs became 670 francs.
Well, this is how you learn.
Oh my God. Yeah, and now I just went to
You took a course. You took a course that how to be a citizen or civil, I don't know, like a resident, legal resident, where you pay your debts on time. And if you don't, we will fuck you up.
I know.
Unconditional surrender. This is what we want.
On top of that, this was embarrassing, right? Because why do I have to go to court?
What country do you live in, Asa?
In Switzerland.
Yeah, don't fuck with the Swiss.
Yeah, exactly. And they took me to court for 250. And so now that I went to open the post, and I'm receiving, the letter of the court on time, because I found out by coincidence. The letter never even hit my thing, but I found it by coincidence that I have to go to court. But still, I have to pay so much money, 670 fucking francs, just because I didn't pay a 250 invoice that was not even. It was an accident. And the stupid thing is that it's from April of last year, and it's my monthly payment of the health insurance here in Switzerland, and they kept on charging me for May and June and July and August and September and all the way to right now, and they didn't pay that invoice. They didn't allocate any of that money to the old invoice, which would have been the easiest thing, you know? And instead, I just like skipped one payment accidentally, and it became a huge issue. It was ridiculous.
Damn.
But yeah,
that's a lot of drama for 200. That's fucking great.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and they can send you even for less than that.
Is it one of those countries where they do, like, if you get a traffic ticket, they charge you based on your income or not?
No.
Okay.
No, but it was accumulating, because I had it there for like a year, and I didn't even know. Because they sent me a notice. My insurance company. My health insurance. I skipped 1 month, and I didn't know. And so they sent some notice to me, and I went to the city hall, and I got the bill, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna pay. And so I called the insurance company, and they said, well, anyway, I just. Why are you leaving, Daniel?
I want to listen to something.
Oh, but you will be back.
Yeah, that's why I said soon.
But where are you from, Isa?
Originally from Guatemala.
Ah, okay. I was wondering. I heard a South American twang.
Yeah, my accent is indeed sort of South American or Latin American. But it's a little bit weirder, I think, than just plain Latin American. It's very fucked up, my accent. Like, I have picked up stuff from everywhere.
Guatemala.
Yeah, Guatemala. Is Eitan still there?
Eitan, are you there? No, probably not.
Everyone was saying how pleasant it was to speak with you today, even though you are against.
Terrorist?
I mean, like the opposite.
Yeah, it was nice speaking to you guys too. I enjoy conversations where we can like have serious discussions and shit, instead of like cussing people out.
Do you go to Amir's room?
I'm banned and suspended from ever going to his room. So he's blocked me.
Why?
Because
what did you do?
He has a narrative and a script he reads off. And if you're a Palestinian and you don't agree with the bullshit he says, or you want to explain him certain things he wouldn't know because he doesn't live in that society, he will flip out and he holds a grudge. I told him I liked Saudi Arabia and that I said very nice things about Saudi Arabia. He didn't like that. And he called me a Zionist and a kafir or some shit. I'm like, and then I trolled him for like a month, but anyways, he kicked me out because I correct him on his bullshit.
Yeah, I think that they say a lot of propaganda, and I know that I might be biased because I am on the Israeli side, but I think that they spill a lot of bullshit there, and they are not thinkers. They just want to fight. They just want to yell. It's just so annoying.
Yeah, they do the most low-hanging fruit conversations, and it's just like the most childish bullshit. And so, like, to me, when I would go in those rooms when I was allowed to, I got the vibe that if you came in and didn't know anything about this topic, you would leave a hardened Zionist. Because the shit he says is so ridiculous, and the way he treats people is just retarded. So
yeah, he has never treated me badly, but I don't really go there. I have been there like 2 times or so.
Ah, okay, yeah. If you're a Zionist, you probably love that room. It's just like a joke. It's so stupid.
No, I mean, like, I tell to the guys, to the Jews, like, I don't consider myself a Zionist. Like, Zionism is an ideology, right? And I support Israel, at least in this conflict. I believe that they are on the right side, and I support civilization. I think that there is so much to point fingers at Hamas, and the Gazans themselves, I see them both as victims and perpetrators. But I think I am of the idea that they have become perpetrators not because of their own fault, let's say, but because they have been manipulated and indoctrinated and intoxicated a lot by Hamas. I think that they could have the potential of being good people, but they truly see Israel as their enemy, and they will try to get rid of them for as long as they live. And it's a mentality that unless you have an epiphany, like a miraculous epiphany one day, they're never going to wake up from that realization, and they will never see a way of having a peaceful relationship or whatever. But that doesn't mean that, I don't even know how to take this, how do you say, the label, Zionism. But I don't stand with Israel no matter what. Like, whenever they do something or will do something that I don't agree with, I will critique it, and I am not, it's not part of my ideology. I don't subscribe to that ideology, so.
Yeah, I never understand when people say, like, to any country, I have unconditional support. Like, really? They could, like, do anything and you have no conditions to your support? Like, hello. But I have a lot of criticism for Hamas, too, as a Palestinian. I feel like, in a lot of ways, their actions do the bidding of against the progress of the Palestinian people, I'll say. But I think also that Netanyahu found it a very convenient place for Hamas to be was Gaza, so he didn't have a problem with them being there until obviously October 7th. But I don't like the way he handled the war either. I thought, and I know actually how surgical Israel can be, and I just I don't like the fact that fucking Gaza looks like an empty desert today.
Yeah, but you also need to, if you were the idea and you want to go only after terrorists, right? But then you have terrorists that are identifiable as terrorists, but then there are civilians that are terrorists as well, that are militants, right? But that don't dress as terrorists or don't act as terrorists, right? But they're still there out to kill you. So it's a very difficult situation to fight with Gazans. I think it's one of the most difficult battles that any country has ever had. On top of that, these things, that Hamas stores weapons in civilian buildings, like schools and hospitals, and even under cradles of babies and stuff in their own homes. And the reason why they do that, is strategic. Like, I understand it, like, I would, if I were them, probably I would have had the same train of thought, right? And it's like, okay, we are going, because we know the principles or the morality, or even if you want to say that the IDF is immoral and they just do it because of international pressure. But that they have to abide by certain rules, right? And they are not going to bomb a school, or at least will think about it, or at least will think 10 times or strategize 10 times before they actually go for that school.
Hold on.
Right?
As a teacher, school has not been in session since this war began. Like, no one's at school. Let's be clear.
No, there's people, they're using schools as shelters right now.
I understand, but the building...
And so my point is that when you see this from like an Israeli perspective or an IDF perspective, they put you in an impossible position when they have weapons in schools or churches or whatever, and you need to get rid of these weapons, but you're also told that you cannot destroy these buildings. And so it is not all on purpose, right? It's like traps to your enemy, and it's just strategy, right? It's tactics. And so when we talk about the destruction, just very briefly, when we talk about the destruction of Gaza, we need to take these things into consideration. And the last thing is about the deaths. When I was looking at the deaths reported by the UN, which comes from the the Gaza or the Hamas or whatever government, and you see the breakdown, you see that are reported, let's say, to make just round numbers, let's say it's 40,000, right? So you see 20,000 are categorized as terrorists, and then 20,000 as civilians. And the 20,000 of civilians appear to be, for example, 80% are women and children, right? And so when you're like, oh my God, when they're killing civilians, they're almost exclusively killing women and children. But then this gets to people, but what they don't tell them is like, the reason why it's 80% women and children is because there are barely any men in the civilian side, because men are usually militants of Hamas. So all these nuances, serve the narrative very well because they are not told to the people, and the people are not used to rationalize these things.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think with that last point about the men, with the fact that I think Gaza is like 2 million people, and it's like half men, half women. And so let's say there's like 1 million men, but even the IDF's intel, as far as the last time I read, was they believe there's still about 40,000 Hamas members. That was the number at the start of the war. So I don't think it's safe to say like most of the men are Hamas or part of Hamas are fighting. I think it's like a very, very small minority, but regardless of whether it's Netanyahu or Israel's breaking any war crimes or not, I just think, just purely off of the aerial photos alone, honestly, I'm not okay with that at all. I thought that, pretty much every build, like there's entire neighborhoods, entire cities that just got destroyed. So I'm not a fan of that. And I feel the same way about Tehran. I don't think that should happen either. Like, I don't think they should go and make it like Gaza, because that's when you start losing support from people, in my eyes. Like, when you start going and taking out like entire neighborhoods or towns or something, that's not good. Even if there's no one there, like
it will not happen in Tehran. It's not happening. in Tehran. No, it's not that it's not. I agree. I'm trying to say there is a reason why this is happening in Gaza, and it's part of the warfare that Gaza is doing. That they are using, like the buildings, like. I don't think that you understand how many IEDs, like explosive devices, that are like planted like all over the Gaza Strip. Like almost every second house has some kind of like remote detonation or some touch detonation or whatever. This is why there are also like casualties from the IDF. It's all of them are in those explosives. They also put like explosives in walls, for example. So. In order, sometimes it's easier to just destroy a house than to just allow the soldiers to look for explosives in walls. And also, those explosives don't necessarily know who touches them. When you see like people without limbs, it's probably not like an airstrike. Like it could be, but could have stepped on something or picked up something.
No, I hear you, and I know the IDF will do whatever it takes to protect their soldiers, and there's guerrilla warfare going on. I'm just not comfortable at all with the level of destruction in Gaza. I think that's created, and honestly, even if I was pro-Israel, I wouldn't be comfortable with it, because
no one's comfortable with it, but it's just necessary and
long run. Like, I'm telling you, like, real quick, just to land it, Daniel, like, the generations of, like, kids who are growing up watching all this shit, there creates even more animosity and hostility towards Israel. I mean, to levels
that's
where it's very...
You need to understand, Jack, we hear a lot about this image thing, and you need to understand that is not our first priority. And our first priority is safety, security, morality, humanity, before like how it looks. And yes, there's a lot of misinformation. A lot is like an understatement. And with time, people will see and facts will come out and they will understand, or like not understand, they will understand who to blame. They will understand the context, why this has happened. And looking at Gaza like this, I saw images of Gaza before, like, yes, a lot of like beautiful, iconic places, but it's not us that made it into a terror base. It's not us that put those IEDs. Even if we stop today, okay, do you think that anyone could go and save those buildings? Like take all those explosives. Like take out all the explosives.
Well, I've seen cases where
how
I'll
much
tell you something, Daniel. I've seen a case
how much
where
explosive is there in Gaza that didn't explode? That just this effort to remove all the explosives, even from like our bombing, like things
But
like
Daniel,
guns that didn't
you
explode.
literally have to get rid of almost every structure if you're selling me on that mentality, because I've seen examples of the IDF taking over a building or a certain section of a neighborhood, and then when they're done with it, they've cleared all this place to make sure there's no weapons and stuff, right? That when they're done, they blow it up, and I'm like, no, is
I'll tell you why.
you're gonna tell me, oh, they'll come back and put more explosives
No,
there?
I will tell you why.
So,
You can also see it. First of all, there are a lot of corridors that were created in Gaza. It's basically flattening like a big route. So there will be a place for the IDF in the middle of the corridor and enough space to not be attacked. So and I understand that it's like goes in the way of buildings, but this is a war that this is the only way to fight it. And I think that all the blame that people have on Gaza at the end, there is a reason that it's happening, and it's not because of the IDF. For example, if you now buy, like an example, build an illegal building, like without permission, yada, 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 and then comes the city and destroys it. And like, oh my God, they're destroying my home. Like, there is context. And the fact that you build illegally, or the fact that you created like 350 kilometers of tunnels, 140-kilometer stretch of strip with entrances to homes and mosques, that is the reason. And when you put IEDs everywhere, now for example, the tunnel under the European hospital, in order not to destroy the hospital, the IDF had to fill the entire thing with concrete, the entire tunnel, which is like, I don't know how many tons of liters or whatever. But we cannot fill the entire Gaza with concrete. And also, I don't think the population would want, like, if you would fill the entire tunnels with concrete, you cannot kill your future, like, growth there. They destroyed Gaza. You need to, like, really, like, you guys, the plural, you need to blame the Hamas or the Palestinians or the world even.
I criticize
that whenever we say something, because it's coming from Israel, so it's propaganda, and no, Hamas are not using, like, I would, if you would go with me to a room and I would say that Hamas is using human shells, they would debate with me. No, show me proof, show me evidence, like as if it's not Gazillion. No, I don't care about those idiots.
It's not that, it's just, you get, like, Hamas does in a way do that, but you guys do it to the Palestinians too. And in my view on that,
do what? Do tunnels? We do tunnels for them?
No, human shields. But my critique, my issue. Wait, I'll get into it in a second. I'll show you in a second. But
the guy with the car. The guy with the car.
Hold on.
Just a second. What I'm saying is, fuck, man. I'm not holding you to the standards that I'm holding Hamas to, which I agree with you, does stupid ass shit, and I have my criticism. But the shit I've seen the IDF do in the way that they've carried out this war, there is a better way, and it's some of the shit I've seen is despicable, man. Like, genuinely despicable.
Without context.
I'm not just one of those people who retweets and keeps scrolling.
If you're talking about a soldier, that blew up a building, that is not like a soldier doing whatever they want. You know what a big operation it is to blow up a building, and how many different units are involved, and how many approvals it needs to go. And then he presented on TikTok he's enjoying and blowing up a building. It doesn't work like this. The despicable thing that the stupid soldiers do is those stupid things that they do with the lingerie, okay? That they take the lingerie and they'll do those photos. Not professional, not like, I don't know, like despicable, whatever you want to say. But the blowing up a building, you're just missing out the context. And I don't have the context, but I just know that it's not like a guy decides to blow up a building, like take his gun and like shoot the building.
I'm just saying, Daniel, the whole thing, I'm sure you could justify everything you guys did. But just because you can justify something that's horrible, I don't think you should do it. Because I don't care what you say. I think reputation does matter and action does matter. And that's why people even come online and talk about this stuff. They want to,
No, that is not true.
preserve
The
some
reason that they
image or
talk
help
about
people
this-
understand certain things. But wait, one sec. But my issue is that we're watching horrible things being done, and we all know there's a better way. And
Okay, so first of all,
the level of brutality is the issue here. Like, you have to understand, we're looking at.
Listen, I know what you're looking at. You are being fed this. There's a reason why you are overwhelmed with those images. Dude, like, I know all this.
I might be able to speak, man. I just want to
Go
make
ahead,
my
speak.
point, and then you can respond. But I'm saying that you're looking at this from the perspective of as an Israeli, and I try to look at this in your perspective, my perspective, the American perspective, who's not any beef in this fight, but just watching. And I can tell you, like, the way that it's conducted makes it look like this brutal superpower is just relentlessly brutalizing 2 million people in Gaza, which is a
Yeah, you said it. I got the point.
land. That's the.
Yeah, I know. Listen, dude, believe me, I'm more aware than you about the image that is being presented and the skewed image that is usually lacking context and it's meant to evoke emotion. This is the war that Hamas is fighting with their propaganda arms, huge propaganda arms like Al Jazeera and others. And Al Jazeera would say something and then groups like Amnesty and HRW or like some like the Albanese from the UN will jump on it, will echo it, and it becomes facts, which is complete nonsense. You've seen horrible things. This is the first war that is being fed to you, but it's not the only war that is happening. Okay? You can also see some of like compare it to other wars and the reactions of people, and you will see that a lot of it is manufactured in order to evoke emotion. So no, image do not matter as much as facts on the ground. And I will tell you also, image is not more important than actually being alive. And you say like, no, it's not a good thing. Compared to what? What is the alternative? Because the alternative for us is them doing exactly what they have been working out to do from all over. Like, what the fuck do you think Hezbollah is? And Hamas and the Houthis with their slogan, death to America, death to Israel, the curse on the Jews. Like Iran saying, like, we'll wipe, like, dude, read the fucking room. We are not hallucinating. They are saying it, and if you speak Arabic, you can hear it even in the original language, as they say. Like, go and stab a Jew. We are fighting an existential threat here. Not more than that. This Hamas and PIJ and others said that they will do this genocide with 7 of them again and again and again and again and again and again.
Yeah,
They provoked it in order to get those images, in order to harm Israel. They knew exactly what they were doing. This is why they are sacrificing the people.
You
fell for it. You fell for it because you, instead of saying Israel did it because they are just, like it's justified, it's moral, it's humane, it's legal to go and get your arms and we will No, hold on, let me finish. You fell for it, but you are blaming Israel. You are the useful idiot, not us. We are doing the thing. Their threat, they did it, they still.
I didn't call you an idiot.
I didn't call you an idiot. Useful idiot is a general term that's said that you are used without knowing.
Yeah,
okay?
it's a term used by Europe.
Manipulated with emotions.
You still call me an idiot, but I'm just saying.
No, but it's just.
Okay,
it's
my God. Listen, you're just like.
Don't be so sensitive. It's just like
Yeah,
I'm not saying that.
Google it. Google it. I didn't call you an idiot.
Yeah,
I'm saying that you fell for it, not us. The trick that Hamas said to exploit people with the humanitarian sentiment, you fell for it, my friend.
It's not
You're
that.
the one here blaming us. You are here blaming us, and blaming us is basically exactly what they wanted, to vilify us, to demonize us, to ostracize us, and it's good for the cause. Let's be honest, all those deaths are good for the Palestinian cause, because Israel bad, big Israel bad, but it's not true. And you know what? The world actually can see it in Iran, and how accurate and how delicate, when it's not the same, when they're not using terror tunnels, when the population is, well, nowadays, like all this commotion, the population is uprising against the regime, not against us. In Gaza, it's not the same. You need to acknowledge the reality of what is happening in Gaza in the last 8 years, at least. This indoctrination.
Because I want to respond to it.
I finished.
So, number one, Hamas, I mean, if you want to say, the population in Iran versus the population in Gaza, Iran hates their regime, and they've shown us this. Population in Gaza has had a lot of different protests against Hamas for different reasons. And there's probably been more opposition there in real ways than there has been in Iran. But aside from that, it doesn't mean they like Israel or think Israel's going to save it from Hamas. And I forgot what the fuck you're even saying.
I wasn't paying attention either.
I remember now. The part where you said, I fell for it. Hamas didn't want you to necessarily, they didn't want, their propaganda is, like you said, more misinformation shit, right? What you fell for, what Israel fell for, was they wanted Israel to crash out, I guess, right? They wanted Israel to act emotionally rather than strategically, and less surgical, and less clever. Because we've seen what Israel can do when it wants to be the IDF, the Mossad.
Hold on
I mean,
there.
the most clever operations I've ever seen.
In what case have you seen Israel acting emotionally? It's just to expand the point you just made.
I'm trying to just keep it to the thing real quick. I'll land shortly. I'm not going to talk long. But I've seen how clever they can be.
If you want to talk about emotional, you need to put emotion in your voice.
What? Oh, because I'm monotone. No, just
Come on,
land
that's a
quickly. I'm
stupid
not going to talk.
comment.
Basically, I've seen how clever and surgical and impressive their capabilities are, and what they can do, and how they can operate. And you can't convince me what you guys did in Gaza was any of that. And I think they succeeded in making you, trying to press the red button, not just on Hamas or all of Gaza, but on the proxies too, which some of it ended up pretty low, man. Like I said, you guys got to consider, I'm one person with my view on this.
Exactly.
Saying a lot of things.
Whichever way we would have responded.
I'm not
You said a
getting
lot
up.
of things too, Daniel. You said a
You
lot of
fucking
things.
dumbest profiles, bro. I'm gonna keep picking you until you fucking have like some kind of profile that works.
Whichever way we would
I
have
don't know why you
responded to
choose
Gaza,
these
we would have
horribly
done the same.
ugly fucking
Seriously.
photos. Do
If we'd not done it
something
surgically, we would
useful.
have been questioned. If we'd done it surgically, we would have been questioned. If we'd done it emotionally, we would have been questioned. Whatever we would have done, we would have been questioned. So it makes no difference.
But this is why Daniel was telling you, saying that it's not the same with Iran, and this is the reason also why I was telling you why it has been so difficult with Gaza, and I think that you agree with that view. And yes, we might agree that it's horrible to see Gaza destroyed and that it's gonna take a toll, emotional toll, whatever, on the people. But this is gonna reconstruct at some point. I know it's not like the perfect answer, but in the end, Hamas is a very difficult target to hit, dude. And I know that you can appreciate that.
I saw what they did to Hezbollah and how they took those guys out. Like, although I do criticize that attack as a terrorist attack,
Nazis are
it
always hard to
was a lot better than just going and bombing a whole bunch of whatever buildings.
But it was never.
Hold on. I'm trying to reply to him. Hold on. Think at you. The operation that we now see has been in the making for like 20 years, okay? That we see in Iran. The planning was, they had a date, and then it was pushed, and there were meetings. It's nothing compared to a genocidal surprise attack on 7th of October. Okay? Second, the information that we have in Iran is significant, also because we are there for 2 decades, and because there are many, many people there inside that are helping us. Not the same in Gaza. Okay, the people operation also, it's something that was prepared in advance for this day. Okay, and it's just one thing that we were able to pull off that with the Mossad. The rest was with military force. Third is that when we target the people in Iran, they were in their homes, in buildings, like normal people, or like in their military bases, or in their like government buildings, not hiding underneath in tunnels. They fucking wear uniforms. We see their like airports. We see their like bases. So if you want to make a comparison for yourself, you cannot just take like one field in a huge table and say, okay, this, here they were precise, here they were not, so they can do it. For yourself, you need to put like more things into this equation. Like context matter. And you cannot taking things out of context. My friend, you are just manipulating yourself. You're proving yourself a point when you're saying, I'm just ignoring everything else and I'm focusing only on this, and this enough proves to me something. You cannot do this.
You gotta understand, like, the whole, like you said, it's different, right? And I agree, Iran and Gaza are different, but in some cases, Hezbollah and Gaza are similar. You say, you know, they're not wearing military uniforms in Gaza. Hezbollah's not doing that. And, you know, they're hiding weapons in houses. Hezbollah's also doing that, and so is Hamas. And, you know, they're hiding in tunnels. Hezbollah's doing that. There's just I just know, like, that the way Israeli security, intelligence, and how thorough it is, that if you wanted to pull off an extremely surgical operation to cut the heads off of Hamas and do this, that, and the other in Gaza, you would have been able to do it. And they probably had similar clandestine operations to the pager attack on Hamas members, right?
So you think we just chose not to use it for like 18 months, looking for Sinwar like by foot? We just chose not to do this.
There are,
and also if you take the heads of the Hamas, if you take the head of the Hamas, it doesn't topple the organization. It doesn't, like, they would just replace it with another one. It's really not the same. And also with Lebanon and the tunnels, it's not the same infrastructure as in Gaza. Like the complete city has this underground Gaza underground. It's not the same with that kind of carving in the mountain and hiding there. And yes, in Lebanon also some houses were destroyed.
But also you need to take into context every single situation, right? It's on a one-on-one basis. I get what you're saying, Jack, and I think that you're trying to make the case of like, okay, if Israel is so surgical and they have proven that they're so surgical, why weren't they able to make the same thing in Gaza? And I get your point, but you also are missing context here, because so the thing with Gaza, even though it was like in the making for a lot of years, the whole temperature, you know, heating was for a lot of years and decades, and the conflict is for decades. This war started on the 7th of October. And in this case, in the case of Gaza, I mean, when you compare it to Iran, Iran has been 20 years in the making, the operation. In Hezbollah, it was 9 years in the making. In Gaza was reactionary. So Gaza, Palestinians and Hamas broke into Israel, took the lives of like 1,500 people, took like 400, 500 hostages. There is no in the making and planning. Everything is more emergency, right? I mean, like your ability to actually plan for something is non-existent, not even limited. It's just non-existent. So you need to act with what you have. And what they had in that moment was exactly that. It's like, okay, where are the Hamas headquarters? Who are the Hamas people, the militants? Let's get our hostages back. Let's bring down Hamas. Let's restore control in Israel. So it was a lot to deal with in a very short time. Now, you're saying Israel has not been surgical in Hamas. If you, let's try to, my niece is currently learning maths, and I am remembering a lot of things now. So, for example, when you do a division, they make her do something that is the proof. So you do the division, and then you have to prove that it's right by making the multiplication. So let's try surgical by bringing the opposite, doing the opposite. So if they were not surgical, don't you think that the war would have already been over, I don't know, in 2 months? Why do you think that it has taken them 2 whole years, 2.5 years of dragging this shit to get the hostages back, to bring Hamas down? Do you think it's because the DF is incompetent? Or do you think it's because they actually want to do as little harm as they can, and they are actually being surgical?
I think that they want their hostages back, and they want to make sure Hamas won't exist in the way that it did before October 7th. And also, they probably want to eventually take some of the land in Gaza, maybe a quarter of it in the north, for what they call security purposes. I don't think they have a plan for the day after, and I don't agree it was surgical. I'm just going, I'm not going to convince you, so we can just agree to disagree.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm not trying to convince you. I just want you to understand the way that we see things. You don't have to agree. You just have to say, okay, I understand where you're coming from. In the same way, when I talk to flat earthers, I'm not looking to be convinced, but I want to understand where they're coming from and why do they think they believe what they believe. And this is what we're trying to explain to you.
Yeah, I'm trying to gain your understanding as well. Also, but I wanted to bring up, like you said, they had a short amount of time to deal with Hamas, but I don't agree with that. I think they had like 20 years, and they bring this up all the time, the Hamas charter, and although it did change in like 2017, they never stopped being the group that wanted to take over Israel from the river to the sea. They never.
Yeah, but the difference is, Jack, is that the Israeli public and even the Israeli government, my sense is that they were lulled into a false idea that Hamas actually didn't have the capabilities to do something like this. It was every couple of years, they're going to fire rockets every couple of years. They'll go in, bomb some rocket launcher sites, and that'll be it for another 2 years. Nobody thought Hamas had the capabilities of this, right? Everyone got fooled. So again, the whole situation is so different. Urban warfare versus right? There's no Israeli soldiers on the ground in Iran. There's Mossad, but there's not foot soldiers. It's not infantry, right? The way to handle an urban warfare is very different than when you can bomb from the air. All of those things. And another thing I'll just mention, the way that Gaza plays politically in the Israeli public and the way that Iran functions in society in the Israeli public is very different. Very different relationships to those two ideas. Right? For 40 years, Israel and the West has been trying to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. 40 years.
Real quick, Caleb, on the idea, maybe I'll give you this. Maybe they were, the Israeli intelligence community was being a bit reckless, or I don't think they were under, and I think they knew that there was this kind of styled attack in the making, and they had intelligence. The Shin Bet had intelligence. The Mossad had it. Maybe they didn't think that intelligence was serious enough, or that it was an immediate threat. But
The conception was that they thought that they were deterred.
Just a second, man. I've read enough about like certain articles about how there were prior warnings, not even just like the day before or anything, but months and a year before, and there was a lot of signals that the Mossad and the Shin Bet had about this style attack being in the works. But my other point is, like, I'm pretty sure there might be elements of people in Israeli society or even the government that maybe got comfortable with the Hamas there, or didn't, thought they were neutered, or, that they had been deterred. But I don't think anyone in those Mossad ranks or Shin Bet ranks were less threatened by Hamas. And I'm pretty sure people in Mossad had already had plans over the last 20 years to do something to that group if they needed to at some point in the future, like they did with Hezbollah. I don't know exactly what, but I just know
It wasn't. I don't think
this goes.
I don't think that's right.
Intelligence, dude.
I mean, look, the security failure of October 7th will run, first of all, out and will run deep, right? So if what you're saying is right, my question is like, so who ignored the Mossad? And why did they ignore it, right? If what you're saying is right, and I think on this point, we have to say, Bibi Netanyahu. We have to talk about, right? We have to talk about all of that stuff about him keeping himself in power and his trial and Smotrich and Ben-Gvir and all of these alliances and things like that, and how that functions and works with Hamas. It's a political, right? That's a major factor, probably to why. God, my dog is being such a bitch right now. Do you know what I'm saying, Jack? Like nobody in Israel disagrees that we should have taken out the nuclear sites in Iran. Nobody.
Oh, I know that.
Do you think we will ever know exactly what happened on the 7th of October? Because that is something that is bothering my stomach since it happened. It's like, I don't even want to imply that Israel planned this, of course, but it's just annoying to believe that the best army in the world, this fence where no cat could get close without the alarms going off, that actually was broken into. So do you think that we will ever know, like, exactly what happened on the 7th of October and who is responsible for that?
We will know, but I think that what people maybe don't understand, it's not like a guy at the fence. It's an operation that part of it was the overwhelming, okay, which is also what Iran wanted to do. Because, we have the Iron Dome, but you can pass the Iron Dome if you overwhelm it with 1,000 rockets. So when thousands of thousands go inside in different locations in the fence and sending drones to the first attack that they did is basically on the defense, meaning on the eyes and ears. They blocked they kind of bombed with drones the eyes, the cameras and stuff like this. And then, they started attacking from different locations. And this is how it started basically. And there are now investigations for each location separately about everything that has happened after the attack. And then they will do also investigation internally of the information. But at the end in intelligence, yes, there are signals, but you don't always react on signals because sometimes signals are meant to see how you would react. So if, for example, they would kind of go all to one place and then react, then they would know that we see that, for example. So you don't always act on signals. And yes, the thought was that they are deterred.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to actually, I would love for all of that to come to light, because and if there were people responsible, they should be punished, even if that was, I don't know, like Netanyahu's responsibility, like there needs to be people responsible for what happened.
It's not always about punishment, because sometimes it's not someone like did something that he was supposed to, but you do learn from it, and this is why we do the investigation, not in order to go and hang someone and find, okay, we now know who to blame. That is not the point. The point that we want to do is to see how we can improve from it. What did we miss? What enough? I think it basically is more about thought process, like how you conceive Hamas, or how do you understand the connections or abilities, or even import of weapons, or like stuff like this. So they would understand how they got things wrong, but I think it's more systematic than finding like one person. It's too decentralized to be one failure.
It was a chain of events rather than just the fault of one person.
But yeah, to learn from it, to every time that something happens, even now in Gaza, every time the soldiers die, it's immediately like an investigation, like what was done in the procedures, how did you approach the house, what things did you do before, like did you send first a dog and then a drone inside to look, and then they can see what in the procedure was not wrong, so it will not happen again.
For the same reason, I have trouble, believing that it could have been planned, because it is so decentralized, and it would depend on so many people that you would have needed that all of the IDF would have to agree that there is a breach and that there will be all of these people, hundreds of people killed, right? I mean, it would have to be too many complicit people, and there's no way that you would get all of it is Israelis to agree for.
Yeah, in an organization basically of people sacrificing their life. It's all about brotherhood. You cannot go inside. It's not about money. We're not a professional army that anyone can just sign in and come out.
This is the livelihood of the people. Like every single person is in the IDF, right?
And also with people saying Netanyahu decided, also Netanyahu is not he's not a dictator that can make all decisions. Yes. He said that there are nuclear bombs in Iran and he sent the army. He's not an Ayatollah. No one would go if the Air Force, at the end, it goes to intelligence, they need to find the site, they need to find, what ammunition. There's a lot of, stuff going on, except, he said, go bomb Iran, they have nuclear bombs. It's so stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's. I mean, I would really I think that you guys can do a movie. The failures of the IDF on the 7th of October, to see what went wrong. But I would definitely love to see a documentary or something about it, because it's very interesting.
I want to see a movie about Rising Lions, about the operation, the beginning of the operation in Iran, the first night, how it happened.
Uh-huh.
And on the people, how it was planned, how it happened.
That would be amazing.
But also the whole story. I mean, also the story of the entire Mossad in IRGC, and having a base of drones and starting the attack where the drones are attacking the defense system and planes coming with refueling from after we carved the way through Syria, because Assad fed. It's such a domino effect, and Iran is part of the China, Russia, North Korea kind of ally, which a lot of Americans also don't see, that there is an alliance between those, this axis of countries. And when one of them falls, it weakens the axis.
There should be a full series, on Mossad and IDF and each operation. That would be amazing. I would be hooked.
I don't know. Lately, Mossad is a bit too public. I don't like it so much.
Yeah.
I like it when you never knew if it was Mossad or you didn't know if it was Mossad. It's
they're speaking too much.
it's more like a mind fuck. How did it happen? How the reactor failed? Who did it? I don't know. Maybe it was us.
Yeah, but
this thing with the hand.
Are ridiculously intelligent. It's amazing, the minds of those. I mean, you have to be fucked up in the head as well. You have to be evil in order to think like evil, right? I mean, this is
it's a lot of projection. Listen,
yeah, exactly.
It's all of this. Also, this that they say that we like imperialist and greater Israel. Now, the thing is that with this entire greater Israel, like in Judaism, for example, we cannot force convert people. Okay, this is something that Muslim can do, or even Christians can do. So let's say we take over the entire Middle East, and then what? We are like, I don't know, 7 million Jews spread out the entire Middle East, like ruling over those Muslims because we will not convert them. Like it doesn't work. Like it's just, I don't see how it can happen. Even if we wanted, you know, we cannot keep such a land with not enough people.
Yeah, but that's just logistics, Daniel. That can be fixed.
Yeah. Like, why? Like, but that's the thing. But why would we do it? To control them? Like, what would we get out of it? Like, it's not. I don't know. It's weird.
Security.
The what? Why?
You'll get more safety and security. You know, a buffer.
Like, do you think, like, let's say we'll put like, I don't know, a Jewish prime minister in, I don't know, in Syria, around like around him, all of them are like Muslims, some of them jihadists, and like I tell you now to do this. Like, fuck you, bitch.
You know what's fun? You know what's actually kind of ironic is the fact that you guys don't convert people, or let's say you don't bring those people you conquered into your fold. It's almost worse.
Worse?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, this is the mentality of a colonizer, right?
Cool.
Well,
Dude, this is just ridiculous.
Okay, maybe it's an
Why not be
example. I'll give you
why not be pluralistic? Why not be pluralistic? Okay.
I'll give you an
dogs.
example.
You're
I would say
dogs.
compared to okay. How would you feel? Ready? All right. Let's say this unnamed empire comes to your your land and conquers you, and they say, "This is our land now. We're gonna be this is part of our empire. You will have protection from this empire, and you will be one of its people now."
Well,
And of course, you might want to say, no, this is my land or whatever, but they come in, they're strong enough to just take it. You're better off than if they just leave you like as a, empireless, unprotected person.
That's not the way empire. That's not the way empire works. At least not in antiquity. That's not the way empire works.
It's just
the way empire works.
Hypothetical.
but he's
I know,
doing
but
a
the way-
thought experiment. Let him cook.
Yeah, it's
let me come back.
the way that empire controls minority cultures is to separate them and divide them, not to create pluralistic societies. Right? Empires don't want to create pluralistic societies. They want to create monolithic societies.
Just saying, it's better, like, I'd rather be a second-class citizen than not a citizen of the empire,
Do you know anything about Jewish history? Do you understand how long we lived as no citizenship in all of those places? Do you understand that? We understand really well.
I'm just curious.
Because your thought experiment is actually proved out by history.
Yeah, okay, so wouldn't you rather be part of an empire that makes you,
Why would the empire conquer the land? I guess I don't understand the scenario, right? The empire comes and conquers us and conquers the land and then just says you're on your own?
No,
No,
but it's an empire.
basically-
Look at the UK, for example. I mean, they had colonies everywhere. They were spreading their values and their thoughts and their costumes and all of this, right? And they allowed them to have autonomy, but they had, they ruled those places.
Yeah. And
And
also,
they did well.
it's better to be someone, even if it's a second class, better than no class. Like, if I was living under an empire, but, once in a while, random people from outside the empire can come and just raid my village and kill me without any repercussion because the empire that controls my land doesn't care because it's me. That's worse than, having some protection from it.
So then I never want to hear you critique again the condition of Israeli Palestinians.
Don't be authoritarian, Caleb.
Well,
No, I'm just saying. Do you understand my point? In other words,
no, I'm
okay,
being specific.
it's better. Right, so I'm saying.
It's better than not, right? But it doesn't mean it's ideal, right? Like, the second class is better than, or first class is better than second class.
We have a
second class is
saying.
better than nothing.
We have a saying in Spanish that says it's better to be the tail of the lion than the head of a mouse. I don't know if it makes too much sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay, so then, Jack, so then it would be better. So no two-state solution. Let's just conquer the entire land and have the Palestinians be second-class citizens. How do you think about that? What do you think?
Wait, sorry, say that again. No two-state
Okay,
solution.
it's
What?
better. It's better to be first-class citizen, right? But in the absence of that, better to be a second-class citizen. So why? So let's have Israel just annex everything and keep the Palestinians as second-class citizens. That would be better than what they have now, isn't it?
Dude, it would be
100%, and a lot of Palestinians agree with that. A lot of Palestinians agree with that, but a lot of them also want to kill the Jews.
Well, the thing is, too, like, you don't even have to give these people voting rights in terms of Knesset. You can give them local voting rights. Okay, maybe a mayor, the person who might
Puerto Rico,
have some
just like Puerto
representation
Rico,
there.
the
But,
U.S.
yeah, I mean, that's way better than the status quo today. And everyone thinks
You sound
jumped it.
you sound like a radical right-wing Zionist, Jeff.
No, I'm just saying, like, that's how bad it is.
Don't
Like,
out our farm. We're working on him.
Listen, the solution and at this point, it's like really just whatever, in my eyes, the Israelis can dictate a lot. They can dictate whether they want to annex, whether they don't want to, whether they want to stay here in the West Bank, whether they don't want to. And everything points in the direction of we're keeping this territorial control. And to me, I'm just thinking long term, it's not sustainable to just keep, a sizable population like that in the
That's true.
as well. Like
That's true.
They should have some rights, like from the state.
Well, I think that's true, and also I think you're a little bit giving into the.
Effectively,
It's such a great phrase. I used it already today, right? And sort of to the bigotry of low expectations.
Everybody's trying to be like a journalist.
Like, yes, there should be things granted from the Israeli state, and there should be behaviors and initiatives within Palestinian society to prepare themselves, right, for some other different future. And if you say, oh, occupation, they can't do it, right? Well, then you're just giving up all control. You're saying Palestinians are stupid. You're saying they don't have capacity. And I know you don't believe that.
No, I'm saying they're up against the superpower and they don't have the room to negotiate any terms in their favor. All their worth in this conflict is literally their body and numbers on the ground.
All they have to do is say no more violence, and then they get leverage.
But also right now, it is kind of like perfect. No person, you're not gonna do this shit all the time, dude. You feel 2 seconds in the room, you're not gonna interrupt. You need to control your fucking nervous system. You drive me crazy, and you make my nervous system go like crazy. So anyway, like right now is the perfect soil, for this to happen, because Palestinians have been bent over so much right now that, as Jack says, they're willing to take whatever at this point, right? So right now is the perfect moment to say, okay, they're gonna take whatever it is, so let's give them, the state or whatever and the protection, but let's treat them well, but let's make them part of our country, and they will be well behaved if they see that they are going to be better off, under Israeli control, with houses and healthcare infrastructure and internet and access to an airport and ports and everything else, so they can have a normal life versus having their whole Gaza destroyed. I'm done.
Better than the status quo. 100 times better.
Yeah, but the status quo could change for the worse, right? I agree with you. There's only two things: change the status quo or not change the status quo. But if you change the status quo, you could get the new Ben-Gvir status quo, and that wouldn't be bad. That wouldn't be good for Palestinians either.
But the status
Right,
quo
so,
is
like-
because of Israel.
Your mic is so low, Simon. It's really hard to hear you.
The status quo is not because of Israel.
Sure it is.
Simon, can you not talk so loud in my ear, please?
Yeah, no, I mean, like, the reality is that, like, this all stems from Palestinians' values. Like, the reason that they're in the mess that they are in is because of themselves.
It's astounding to me that even I appreciate that you said it. You said it well, as you usually do, but it's astounding to me that continues to need to be said.
Yeah, but
I don't agree with that.
I don't agree with that statement either.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
So what was
it
your-
takes two to tango. It takes two to tango. We all did this together.
Well, I think
No, we did this together, Simon.
I agree with you both. Can't I agree with both? I think the
No.
Palestinian.
They're incontrovertible positions.
Yeah, he's blaming one side, and Caleb's saying, well, both sides have their own.
Well,
We did
I
it
think
we
try
did
to
it
bring them
together.
I think we did.
Okay, what did Israel do? What did Israel do?
Well, Israel.
Simon, your mic is so hard to hear.
Simon, you gotta stop shouting, Simon. Look, I think that both can be true. The way that I see Caleb is true is that both Israel and Palestine contributed. The way that I see Simon is true is to say that the Palestinian perspective is a problem.
I just need to say this. When Simon speaks, you all need to shut the fuck up, because at this time of night, if he yells, which is why he mumbles like this, if he yells, he's gonna get a divorce. So that's the reason why he can't, because his girlfriend's gonna kick him out.
That's right.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, so wait, so what did Israel do?
What did Israel do?
Wouldn't you explain the whole room to you right now, Simon?
No,
I mean, honestly,
I'm
Simon,
saying this
Simon,
is so,
come on.
This is so one-sided in my mind that I'm just curious to hear what he thinks is like why this is a two-sided conflict.
First of all, it's a multi-layered
Nobody's saying
I'm not saying
that.
it's
We're just
multi-layered. I'm not saying
we're
it's
just making
And
thought
Simon.
experiments of what would be the solution, and that means, and Jack was saying that it would be better to be a second level or second whatever citizen instead of a first level citizen. That means
No, but we moved on from that. Haven't we moved on from that? Simon, look, I'm not making a moral equivalence, right? By saying that everybody participated in the way that we got to this situation is not to say that there's one party that's more morally culpable. But everybody did the dance. Everybody did the dance, and you cannot remove like Israel did a lot of stuff that if the Palestinians did it, right, we would be screaming bloody murder. And I think it's okay, right? And I speaking as a Jew and somebody who feels myself very much almost Israeli, right? I think it's acceptable and actually like it's the only way forward to actually look at what you've done and say, well, that was fucked up. We shouldn't have done that. We might have been morally justified, or it was the right thing, or it was et cetera, right? But we wouldn't do that again.
I want to have two things to say. One, to like the offer that was suggested about this second-class citizen. Even that, unfortunately, is not possible with the current mindset of the Palestinians in Gaza specifically. They need to be first removed from this indoctrination somehow, and that would be not a one-day process. That would take decades or like at least years or maybe generation, anywhere between them. And the last point you were talking, remind me what was the last talking about so kind of, can you just just give an example that you said, because yes, two need to tango, but I guess there's a big difference between defense and offense. And whenever Israel is doing something, I would ask what would happen if we didn't do it, or what could have been done differently.
Yeah, I think in this particular conflict, and I would say before the emergence of like a distinct Palestinian people, right? I think what we have is more like a civil war than it is, an invading group and a native group, right? So in that sense, I think everybody's doing it to each other. I think look, there was ethnic cleansing of many, many villages by Jewish and Zionist forces. That happened. And we should be able to say that it happened. Now, you want to say that that was
one? A village that was ethnically cleansed, because I know Abu Ghosh and all the residents.
Well, Abu Ghosh wasn't. Abu Ghosh wasn't ethnically cleansed. That's the point.
No, it was, and they returned. But which one was? It was, and then they were called to return by Zionists because they said they were not against us. They were not aggressive, whatever. I don't know. But which village, for example, do you have a name of a village that was ethnically cleansed?
Sure.
Do you deny it's happening today too? Then?
Yes. Deny that it's happening today, ethnically cleansing villages? Yes. Well, can you give me a name of the village that was ethnically cleansed?
Lod and Ramla.
Search for it.
Lod and Ramla. Lod and Ramla.
Okay. And when exactly, do you know? Or not exactly, like what, when did it happen?
July 48. July 48.
Okay.
Right, there's and again, I'm not making a moral equivalence. I'm just saying, let's say facts, okay? And this stuff happened. War sucks. In war, people do brutal, terrible things. Some people might say all wars are crimes, right? I'm not sure I would say that, but some people might say that. And I think we can be clear about particular Palestinian ideologies. That, by the way, Simon, I don't think represent the entirety of all of those people, right? The indoctrination is the second point, but that's not the whole story. You're erasing history when you tell the story that way. I think that's a violent act to history.
No, I mean, there's a group of people that accept that force is justified. And to the degree that you accept that as a premise for dealing with people politically, you will die. And that historically has just been the case.
We live in modernity now, Simon. We don't live in the time of barbarism. We live in modernity.
Well,
That's not.
It's not about if we live in the time of barbarism or not. The people who continue to cry about women and children dying accept barbarism as a premise that is justified to an end.
The fuck are you talking about? I mean, yeah, what the hell are you talking about?
Bro, there's mullahs running around right now slaughtering Iranians. There's Gazans who sanction your government to go into sovereign countries. There's the same thing with Hezbollah. These are barbarians. These are primitive human individuals.
That's a very
so why should the civilized Western world succumb?
They shouldn't. That's my point. They should have erased these people from the globe like 50 years ago.
Simon, you sound like a.
Where are you from, Simon?
I don't think Ayn Rand would agree.
I mean, yeah, but I don't think you understand like the level it takes.
Are you Jewish?
Ayn Rand would be very disappointed. No, he's just retarded. He's an atheist.
Ah, okay. Yeah, usually I was gonna be surprised.
No, I'm joking. Go ahead, Simon.
Jews can be atheists, but no, I mean, there's nothing about that. If there's people chanting death to America, death to Israel, you go and wipe those people out. Like, the way you get into forever wars, is because you don't actually do what it takes to actually win the war. Like,
should you just do what like Pol Pot or Hitler did, just go on a mass canceling spree, like permanently? I mean, this is so like it's just genocidal sounding.
Yeah, and Simon, you're forgetting the social aspect. But Simon, you're forgetting the idea that like after you kill the people, you have to like rebuild the society, rebuild the culture. That's why Germany and Japan are positioned where they are, right? It's not because we defeated the Nazis or the Japanese militarily only. Had we just left and then said nothing, or helped them to rebuild or reacculturate them, they would be nothing. It's two parts.
There's nothing today, but Japan.
Oh my God, Simon, you're so
the U.S. went into Japan, completely eviscerated them, and then shoved the Constitution down their throats. And they're thankful because of it.
And then did a process of denazification. If you're talking about doing a radical Islamization, I'm all on board for that. But it cannot be handled only militarily. You're wrong.
Well, I mean, how else do you do it?
Did you hear what I said? You can't do it only militarily. There has to be a plan.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Again, Japan is a perfect example. Japan is actually the example I go to.
Right. So now you're negotiating against your own position. So now you're negotiating.
Hold on.
I feel like this guy doesn't understand the region. Why people do things they do in the
It
region.
doesn't understand. It doesn't understand.
Like a basic understanding of
The
it.
position that they are is because all of their values stem from fucking Allah. So like, who am I to do?
That's not even true, by the way.
My secular. Okay.
George Habash.
From Iran to Israel.
Simon. George Habash. Do you know who that is?
No.
He was the leader of one of the most violent Palestinian resistance / terror / fill in the blank organization. And he's a Christian man.
I thought
He didn't do it for Allah. He did it for a whole different set of reasons. And I don't think you have a basic understanding of like the root of this particular conflict. And you're speaking as if this is like a blanket thing for the entire Middle East, which is like super complicated.
it was my understanding that the Palestinian resistance movements in like the 70s and 80s, for example, a lot of them were actually far left, like they were more Marxist.
Communists, yeah.
Yes, and they also was more of like a nationalist, like Arab nationalist, pan-nationalist type of movements. Yeah, it wasn't all. It's at least from what I've read about it, they weren't always like.
That was the first
if I
group
wrong.
to really come and make it their political philosophy be Islamism.
By the way, I'm not talking about like the radical leaders of these of like Hamas or Hezbollah. I'm talking about like the average person, like that lives in these places.
That still doesn't add up, brother.
You're just calling for genocide at this point.
It just still doesn't work.
So the
Yeah, because
I mean, you do realize winning hearts and minds has always been the strategy. I mean, for the West, I mean, you can't just brutalize
listen to
people.
what I'm saying.
when we went to Iraq, Simon,
The average person in Gaza, Muslim.
today, yes.
Okay. I'm saying the reason that you cannot just shove different values down their system, like especially Western values down their system, is because it's antithetical to what these people believe.
Then how did Turkey do it?
That's not true of
It's not a Western
people in Gaza, by the way, Simon. That's not true at all of the people in Gaza. Like,
You do give an
although it's
example.
one of the most closed off places, some of these people, I mean, a lot of these people aren't, Palestinian Muslims in general aren't even really, it's not like a religious society in that way. Even in the West Bank, the PA isn't like a Muslim theocracy, it's a secular one.
behaviors in Europe.
You're thinking of North Africans, brother, or South Asians.
Talking about North Africans, the amount of
Are you North Africans and Syrians?
Listen, my mom's
in London
Yeah.
or Italy or Montreal
Yeah.
or New York or Chicago
Perfect.
or
Go look those cases up. You'll find that they're either South Asian, they're North African, or they're from Afghanistan. Go look that up, and I guarantee it'll be along those lines for almost every single one. Or your occasional Saudi Arabian. But
France's Middle Eastern population is a whole different. It
Syria
comes
too.
from a whole
Add
different
Syria
problem.
to that list.
Well, no. I mean, because like after both World War I and World War II, they had North African colonies, and each time they said, yeah, we need lots of people to help rebuild France, and they put them, they set them up in like housing, basically kind of like projects. And they never tried to assimilate them. They just let them live amongst themselves. And so you have like these large neighborhoods that are just full, like Al Maghreb or.
Yeah, they're all still there, dude. They don't assimilate at all in France, but they'll assimilate really quickly in America. They'll assimilate in a country that's better at assimilating those groups that they colonized or fucking made refugees or whatever. Like America, you can come, you can get here.
I'm talking about Islam.
Yeah, I know. These are all Muslims. Yeah. What do you can't make general, dude. Listen. There's a lot of people that are Muslims, and they're from all different kinds of parts of the world. When people say Muslims, like, listen, that might not be the same Muslim country my family came from, where people aren't walking around in niqabs necessarily, right?
I would be okay if Muslims were like Jack. I would be less resistant to.
I mean, some of the, like, if you think of like the Muslims that have like a high level of involvement in like terrorism, it's like people from like Dagestan and fucking Chechnya. It seems like it comes in different pockets in the Middle East.
It comes in different pockets, Pepper, but I think that the religion, the framework of that ideology and of that religion is like, how do you say, it's perfect soil, for terrorism, because it's very compatible with the idea of dying by war and dying colonizing and all of these sort of things. So it's very compatible with the way that they have their religion structured.
I get what you're saying. Like, you know how I feel about Islam. I just don't want to talk about that over again.
Yeah. We mean
at the same time, I would say this: if I was living in like what was Israel, and it was, despite how long those people had been there, I mean, could have been anywhere from several generations, or a couple generations, I should say, or their ancestors go back a few thousand years. If I saw, regardless of any international agreement, if I saw a bunch of these fucking people moving in, I would just, because just how I am, rather nativist, I would probably resist them too, and just want them, them in their state to go away. Like, I don't think it's all. I don't think it's all Islam. I think there is like this natural instinct people are going to have, where they're going to want to basically get them, fight them off. And I don't think that has to do with Islam.
I'm not saying that has to do with Islam.
There's a lot of divides in the Middle East, and to be honest, a lot of them are built on ethnic and different national beefs. Yeah, tribal beefs and shit too. There's a Muslim component to a lot of it, but if you look at stable Muslim countries, ones that have some success, or even if just they're really stable, they're typically just fine. Extremely conservative, but that's just how it is. They're extremely conservative.
Well, what do you mean by conservative? Like, you have no civil rights?
No, some, for example, even in Dubai, right? Like, they don't allow public PDA, public displays of affection.
You can't even cuss at people, or like.
No civil rights.
You can't, they just don't want
I think
degeneracy.
In Dubai, if you want to be gay, to be honest, you can be gay. Like, it's fine, but you just cannot do it in front of people. Of course, if you're a Muslim, nobody has to know about it, right? But But I mean, like, it's just public displays of affection.
They have different rules though for like their citizens and what they allow basically, if you're a Westerner who's just like I don't know, not gonna fit in, they can easily just tell you to leave.
Hello everyone.
Simple solution.
PP, I don't want to interrupt you, but I've got a question.
Questions at the end. Thank you.
Sorry, I don't know, but you've been talking about the Middle East, and I want to just state some ideas about that.
So if you don't know what we're talking about, then how come you want to add something?
I don't want to add, but I want to ask a question.
But questions are at the end.
Okay, so shall I keep them at the end right now?
No.
Yeah.
Inside being cheeky.
Okay, you can just discuss them.
Ask your question.
Go ahead, Mohammed. Go ahead, honey.
Okay, thank you. Well, you've been talking about the Muslim countries in the Middle East. Who will achieve peace at the end? West or the Muslim countries in this area? West American people or the Muslims themselves?
I think
first of all, you guys have to organize and achieve peace yourselves, right?
I think he has a fair point. I think that like Gulf Arab states in particular are rather stable. I think that it's just my opinion. I do think that you're probably going to see like what will be basically civil wars in Europe. When I don't know how far into the future that is, but I mean, to answer your question, I think that we'll probably see more violence, a lot more violence in particularly Europe, and you guys probably won't.
Pepe, a lot of those successful GCC countries, a lot of the times, I think they're all kingdoms, right? So they have like a really strong hold on the stability of that country, and a lot of times they have a parliament too, like Jordan, and they have great relations with the United States. And all those countries, man, they live like kings over there. It's great. Like, for the most part, they're very wealthy. It's a good time. And they're really conservative. What's up?
They get a lot of things right. I mean, they have a lot of foreign workers and stuff, but they don't give fucking citizenship to people. They don't allow people to. They don't have a birthright citizenship. They don't have any of the garbage that you have in Western countries. They realize that is like that would result in their downfall. And yeah, they have laws that are too strict for my liking. However, most of the Muslims that come from places like Qatar and so forth, they tell me, well, I actually like their laws. Like, we don't have to deal with these people coming in and changing our society, our culture, which I think is a good thing. I think that's going to be a big part of the West, why the West will probably delve into war, because it's.
But look, in America, you have two parties that are like advocating for like the complete opposite of like what freedom demands. Like, you have one party that says bring in everyone, give everyone citizenship, and then the other party is just saying like, yeah, let's bring in like only limited amounts of people, and like we don't give them citizenship. Where it's like, you can bring in as many people as you want, just don't give them citizenship. There's rational ways to go about this. Like, number one, it's not the government's role to tell you, oh yeah, this person can or cannot come in for work. Like, that's
well, I think it is.
That's just a value, because it's security, it's national security. You cannot just let in bad people in.
No, it's exactly a value judgment. You're saying you ought. That's an ought claim. It's not a material fact.
Freedom. It's a principle of freedom.
Which is a value judgment. As you value freedom, they ought to allow it.
Yes, Simon, it is a value judgment. Like, for example, Switzerland, you cannot just come here and enjoy the country if you're not going to behave. The country, the government, has the right to vet the people that are going to come in. So if you're qualified to get a job at the level of the Swiss level, if you have the education, the culture, if you're compatible, if you're going to be responsible, pay your taxes, don't be a pig, and throw trash out. Like all of this stuff, yes, it's a value judgment.
No, it's not. It's just it's inconsistent with freedom.
Oh my God, that's a value. That's once again, you value freedom. What you think is freedom.
No, listen to what I'm saying. I'm saying, regardless if you value freedom or not, I'm saying it is inconsistent with freedom. That means it's inconsistent with human nature.
No, I actually think that it's consistent with freedom. That if you want to remain autonomy, to have autonomy over your country and basically your people over a country. You have to control who comes into your country. Now, that's why Israel's not going to just give all Palestinians Israeli citizenship and the right to return, because they realize demographically they'll lose their own autonomy over their own country, because it will now be overwhelmed with foreigners.
And you need to see, hold on just 1 second, Simon. You need to see countries just as you see individuals. Countries are the smallest unit of the geopolitical component in the globe. So countries, just as individuals, imagine if I told you, oh, Simon, anybody can go inside you as they wish. I mean, it's freedom, right? And you're like, fuck no. What if they have got AIDS? What if they, whatever? Like, they're not going to fuck me. Like, no, that's freedom. Well, in the same way, a country has sovereignty, a country has autonomy, and a country doesn't have to let in anyone.
I always use the house example. Like, your house isn't accessible to strangers, and if it is, it's not your house.
Exactly, but the difference is that your house is your property, and the property is not the government. The government can say, listen, you know what,
but it is my country.
Okay, but again, your country's not my
It wouldn't be if you're not paying taxes, but since you're paying taxes, yes, you have certain rights that other people don't. Therefore, it's your country. You own it.
So when Americans vote for, like, I don't know, policies that tighten immigration, for example, because they want to have control over who comes in their country, that is perfectly in line with freedom.
No, it isn't. That's my point. I'm saying the standard is freedom. If you want to deviate and you go into your own opinions about whatever you think is freedom, I'm telling you that is an inconsistent principle with freedom. The
No, it's not.
Is not to tell people who can or cannot come in. You
can only exercise freedom in your country where I guess you could say that your people have the autonomy to dictate the policies of your country, where it's like basically a democracy. Now, we can, for example, if we were to allow the whole world to just come here, say open borders for the world, I mean, there's a good chance that we'll have a majority Indian population. Next week, we wouldn't be an American country anymore.
I'm simply stating what the principle is. If you're saying I don't like that principle, let's just compromise on freedom, then all you're saying to me is, yeah, I just want to compromise on freedom for.
It's not about compromising on freedom. You're compromising on responsibility, and you're compromising on obligations because you want to give freedom to people. Freedom doesn't exist if you don't have responsibilities, and part of those responsibilities is fulfilling the rules of the land by the law. And so if you want to be able to access a country, you need to abide by the rules of that country, and then the government can kick you out if you are not abiding by those rules. So yeah, there are conditions. Freedom has conditions.
I mean, what do you think the Saudis would consider it freedom if a bunch of like homosexuals decided, hey, we're gonna all descend on Riyadh and we're gonna have a gay parade and do gay lewd acts everywhere? I mean, they would see that as like.
You need to think this one through a little bit more, Simon. I don't think that you have thought too much about it yet.
I've thought a lot about it.
People do have freedom to stay away from things. Okay, you look at this and I don't even know. It's not even like a libertarian view in my personal view. It's rather.
I'm not a libertarian.
It's an anarchist view.
The government has.
It's completely anarchistic, Simon, and you criticize anarchy, and you're being an anarchist.
Anarchism is dumb. Anarchism just says, the hell with every institution in the world.
No, it does not.
Saying the proper function of a government is to protect your rights. That's it.
Which rights ought people have? There's actually like a conversation. People kind of do this in a way. Actually, I don't want to get into it, but I'd say there's actually like somewhat more intelligent people that will have conversations about, is it okay to lower the age of consent? And it tends to be, I forget what the study was, but it's a conversation that people with higher levels of education stuff think it's at least intellectually, it's a interesting conversation to have.
Not really.
Whereas,
it's simply a legal matter. Age of consent is just
okay, but it's a legal matter whether or not you can be a citizen in a country, though.
I know that's my point. It's a legal matter. Should you let them?
Okay, but you said it's antithetical to freedom. But if a 16-year-old wants to marry a 26-year-old. I mean, I could make the same argument.
It's a legal matter, though.
So is citizenship.
I know. I'm saying it should be extremely difficult to become a citizen.
Okay.
What do you think of birthright citizenship?
Yeah, you shouldn't just become a citizen simply because you're born in a geographical location. Even though my son will be born in America, and he should be getting his citizenship.
Well.
Yeah, that's right. As Randy likes to say it, the rules apply. What is it? The rules apply for me and not for thee.
I mean, I would just say the only way you can have true freedom is to have a level of freedom of association, which is something that involves both inclusion and exclusion. You can't truly be yourself or do what you want to do without, people that are, I guess, similar. Like, obvious example, why do homosexuals like to go to gay bars or nightclubs? It's obviously same reason straight people like to do that, at regular bars or clubs. People create communities, like, even within the United States. And I would say our country is just, like, so different from most of the world that it's, I definitely don't want it to become like those other parts of the world. So I'm definitely okay with restricting people's ability to become citizens.
But I'm with you. I'm literally saying that is my entire position. I'm saying make it extremely difficult because to become a citizen, because the way you radically shift a nation is if you just allow anybody to become a citizen. That doesn't exclude people from actually just coming in and working or educating themselves. Like, it doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. I'm just simply saying, don't allow those people to vote, because if you bring in 5 million Indians and then 5 million Indians vote for a fucking Indian, you basically get India in 30 years. And I'm saying, I don't want America to be India, but I don't care if the Indians want to come in, because eventually they just have to assimilate, because no matter how hard they want to work or how much they want to bitch, either you like it or you don't, but you have no political power in the country, so you're completely irrelevant. You have no say.
But that's kind of what Middle Eastern countries do. They basically, if you don't like it, you just get the fuck out. And if you have a problem with banging our laws, we'll throw you in jail and then deport you as soon as you get released.
Well, Middle Eastern countries don't have like civil rights. I mean, I'm talking about you have full civil rights.
Is that wrong? Is that wrong?
Human beings require freedom in order to operate as a human being. Yes, of course it's wrong.
I don't think it's necessarily wrong. I think that's a value judgment.
Of course it's a value judgment. You're talking about a human being and the necessity of a human being to be free. It's a metaphysical requirement for a human being to be free.
Sure, but I would probably argue that it's far safer, for example, to live in Qatar. You probably don't have to worry about criminals robbing you or people jumping you, your shit getting stolen, getting verbally harassed and stared down aggressively by men if you're a woman.
You have no.
You don't have it. You have basically.
Like, obviously.
Sure, but I would say that I've talked to people who said they liked that. They prefer the trade-off. Okay. To them, it's worth it.
Okay. They have the luxury because of America. Okay. Nobody is saying, "Oh my God, like that really nice Saudi Arabian car." No, that doesn't happen. That happens everywhere else in the world. Does anybody say, "Oh my God, that amazing"?
I know they have oil.
Saudi Arabian.
I get it.
Yeah, that's it. They don't produce fuck.
Sure, but I'm not talking about how they lack innovation. I'm talking about how. Yeah, I'm not talking about them lacking innovation. We all know that. Yes, but what we're talking about is that now that they have the means to have a wealthy country because they have oil wealth, what is wrong with them wanting their? In fact, what the fuck is wrong with necessarily wrong with Sharia law if that's how they want to live?
Well, you're just making a more relativist argument. It's like, well, like if they just want to have slavery, like who cares? Just let them have slavery.
I didn't say it. No, that's not quite the same.
No, that's the logic you're trying to apply. It's just a more relativist argument.
No, I don't necessarily consider them the same. I understand Sharia law can be like barbaric, but it can be implemented in ways that are like not that bad.
You're simply saying, what's wrong with another nation doing what they want to do? And I'm saying, well, what if there's a nation that just wants to have slavery? Like, at what point do you say, actually, that's more...
Well, yeah, I would say slavery. If there's a country that makes rape of any woman you want, like, legal, I mean, yeah, there's things that are, like, obviously cross the line. I don't think anybody would deny that.
Forget cross a line. I mean, cross a line for who? That society doesn't care about that line.
Well, it's interesting. Mexico, this was like back in, like, 2000, 2001. It's some parts of Mexico, it's like really rural. It can be like a couple hours to even go to the nearest like town. Like their concept of rape was like, haha, that sounds like a silly judicial law. It wasn't a big deal to them. And the women, I guess, didn't feel that traumatized by it because there wasn't like this stigma in this out in the middle of nowhere group of natives.
I mean, in Sharia law, like 4 men have to witness a woman get raped in order for it to be like considered rape.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, would you blame somebody who lives in Qatar or UAE for saying, yeah, we don't have the freedoms like when I was studying in the university, at a university in America, but I prefer being able to live the way I live here.
I'm simply just saying, if you don't hold freedom as a value, okay, then you fall into like the more relativist arguments. And like if I say like,
why should I hold freedom as a value?
Because it's a metaphysical requirement of human beings to be free in order for them to operate as human beings.
No, I kind of think that's bullshit.
Okay, so then let's.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's free technically. I mean,
no. I mean, relatively speaking. So, like, if you look at countries like North Korea, where it's a complete totalitarian state, versus America,
But people like living in Qatar. People don't like living in North Korea. So
Again,
why are we using that as an
it's
example?
all relative because it's all relative.
Yeah, it's relative. Let's talk about places where people want to live. Muslims like living in Qatar and UAE.
Yes, but like Muslims, okay, have a very tribal and primitive view of the world. That's why they don't mind. These are people that do not produce literally fuck all. Okay,
I know that, but that's America. I'm not critiquing their lack of innovation. I'm critiquing their their laws.
But then how do you, bro? But then the reason people go to Dubai, the reason it's prosperous is because there's other people who go there who have money. Okay, but those people have money because those people who actually produce something.
Well, I do wonder though. What is maybe part of the problem with like Saudi Arabia is that since these people are born into money, can just have the shit they want. Just they can just buy it. Maybe that lack of it creates a lack of drive to want to be somebody that I don't know, innovates shit. I really don't have the answer, but
I mean, look at the stuff that they invest in. I mean, I wouldn't even say that's the case. I'm simply saying, even if you're born into money and you inherit trillions of dollars, okay, that's just you. Like other people have to produce something of value as well, because right now what happens is like you don't have like an entire economy in these countries. Like if it's not for oil, these people are bankrupt. Okay, and I'm saying like if you remove that from America, you still have an economy.
Yeah, but they have oil, so why does it matter? I mean, they're not going to go bankrupt, at least anytime soon.
I'm simply saying like if you have a population that doesn't produce anything of value for other people, then like that's it. Like it's not like wealth just comes into a vacuum because you have oil. Like.
But what does it matter? Because there is a demand for oil, and they so happen to have a lot of oil.
I'm saying the conditions that they live in. They have a luxury because of the commodity that they sell to the planet. But I'm saying that if you remove that commodity, what do you think you have? You have a primitive society. And I'm saying if you take out oil out of America, you still have a civilized society.
Okay.
Like there's an economy, like you have rights, you have the ability to produce, to pursue other values, and you just don't have that in these other countries. You can't open up a strip club, you can't open up a fucking whatever unless the government approves it. Like countries that we know, that do that do not do well. That's my entire point. So I'm saying in order for human beings to operate as a human being, you have to be able to be free enough, relatively speaking, to be able to pursue the values you think are gonna achieve some sort of benefits to your life. And in Qatar, in Saudi, that is not the case.
Yeah, I it's not how I look at it.
Well, I mean, I think you have I think you have a misunderstanding of wealth doesn't just pop up out of nowhere.
When did I say it did? We all know why the Gulf Arab states have money, but it's not a secret. So what is there to debate?
Well, if it wasn't for the free countries, these people wouldn't be able to trade.
But it's not the free countries. It's because we literally have automobiles and shit that requires oil, and so
that's exactly what I'm talking.
They have the demand for
automobile. An automobile doesn't just pop up in the ether, and we just have automobiles now, or we have like these combustion engines that need a product that you sell. Like in order for there to be a combustion, there has to be the conditions necessary for you to even be able to produce that. And I'm
sure, but they already exist. I get it, but.
Bro,
so are you saying that you think that you don't think that they would be able to be free? You don't think that they could be maybe innovative despite being Muslim with their laws?
Okay, well, give me the example. Where?
No, I'm asking. I actually don't have the answer.
Yeah, I'm saying it doesn't exist. That's what
you've heard me go off on Arabs about how they completely lack innovation in comparison to the rest of the world. But
I know, but that's my point, bro. That's exactly my point. I'm saying they do not create the conditions necessary in order for us to get to where we are today. So when you say, oh yeah, but I don't mind living in Dubai today, I don't mind living in Qatar today, I'm saying, yeah, okay, but like you have the luxury to say that. But if we had to restart from nothing and you said, yeah, let's go to Dubai, well, good luck, because that's not going to happen. And I'm saying America is a country that allows you the freedom, the conditions for you to be able to get to where we are today. Because Dubai and Saudi do not. That's the beauty of America. That's why.
I mean, it's for me, that's fairly... It's hard to say that is the cause. I do think it perhaps could be an explanation, but I also think that the fact that you have a group of people that do not have to be innovative just because they're wealthy to begin with, I think was every bit as much of a likely explanation.
Again, you're taking it as if it just comes into a vacuum, bro. That's my point. I'm saying restart, okay? Everybody in the world has nothing because at some point everybody in the world did have nothing. I'm saying the conditions that America allows versus the conditions Saudi and the Middle East allows, okay, America will win that 100 out of 100. Okay, so you're all you're saying is, well, now that we have everything, let's just go back to regressing. And it's like, well, why?
Well, no. If I push back, no. This is rather recent blip in history where the West is as powerful and innovative as it is. If you look out throughout history, though, especially along the Mediterranean, North Africa, you cannot say that these Muslims were not innovative. I mean, they had seaworthy ships. They were conquering people. They had their own architecture. They had all kinds of shit. So, I mean, yeah, we're more innovative than them now, but but when they didn't have oil money, they didn't really seem to be lacking innovation necessarily.
I mean, they had the Islamic Golden Age because they had Aristotle, and then once they dropped Aristotle, like that was it. You have Islam today. Like basically, once they dropped Aristotle in like the year 1000, like that was it for Islam. What observations came out of Islam after that?
you were detained at any Illinois juvenile detention facility, this is the money glitch that's getting former detainees.
The function of a Zen teacher is to put his students in all
say,
kinds
for
of
instance,
situations
you've got a drug and
where in
alcohol
the normal course of social
a
relations,
person who is addicted to drugs and alcohol. He's trying
by
to
asking
have
nonsensical
a relationship with some
by making
chatbot,
absurd remarks,
and they're primarily trying to use it to.
all ways of unhinging things, and above all, keeping them stirred up with impossible demands. To hear the sound of one hand, to, without moving, stop a ship sailing out on the water, or to stop the sound of a train whistle in the distance. Magic. To touch the ceiling without getting up from one's chair. To take the 4 divisions of Tokyo out of your sleeve. To take Mount Fuji out of a pillbox. All these impossible questions are asked. And in the ordinary way of interpreting these questions, we think, well, now, gee, how could we do that? See, that's a very difficult question that's been asked. And you have to think, what would I do to do that? Because we are caught up in a certain way of discourse, which the language game that we play, and the social games, the production games, and the survival games that we play are good games. But we take them so seriously that we think that that is the only important thing. And this is to unstick us from that notion and realize that it would be just as good a game to drop dead now as to go on living. Is a lightning flash, as compared with the sun that goes on for billions of years? You can't make that sort of comparison, because a world of lightning goes also with a world where there's a sun, and vice versa. So long-lived creatures and short-lived creatures go together. That's the meaning of that saying. Flowering branches grow naturally, some short, some long. So this then is a scene in a Zen community where spontaneous behavior is encouraged within certain limits. And as the student becomes more and more used to it, those limits are expanded until eventually he can be trusted to go out on the street and behave like a true Zen character and get by perfectly well. You know what occasionally happens on the street when 2 people are walking down the sidewalk straight at each other, and they both decide to move to the right together, and then to the left together, and they somehow get stuck, and they can't pass each other. Zen teachers will pull just exactly that sort of stunt when going down a path and meet one of their students, to see if they can get him in a tangle, and can he escape from it. And you will find in everyday life that there is a very clear distinction between people who always seem to be self-possessed and people who are dithering and nervous and don't quite know how to react in any given situation, always getting embarrassed because they have their life too strongly programmed. You said, this is a common marriage argument. You said you would do such and such a thing at such and such a time, and now you've changed your plans. Not that the change of plans really caused any inconvenience, but just the feeling that when you say you will do something at a certain time, you ought to do it at that time, come hell or high water. Well, that's being very unadaptable. That's being a stone kind of sticky thing. If it, after all, doesn't matter when we do it, and somebody is offended because the time has been changed, that's simply because they are attached to punctuality as a fetish. And this is one of the great problems. This causes many automobile accidents. Men rushing home to be on time for dinner when they stayed late either working or they had to stop for a drink at some bar, or when the girl feels that she has to, if she has a fussy husband and she feels she has to have the dinner ready at exactly a certain moment, she ruins the cooking. You'd rather have a faithful wife and a bad cook. I hope I'm not treading on any toes. So, you see, we spend an awful lot of energy trying to make our lives fit images of what life is or should be, which they could never possibly fit. So, Zen practice is in getting rid of these images. But it's so explosive socially to do that. And it so worries people. They get vertigo, they get dizzy, they don't know which end is up. And this happens, you know, if you've ever been in one of those blab sessions, where they call them tea groups, I think, or something like that, where people gather together without any clear idea of what this gathering's about. They know it's somehow self-exploration, but just how do you begin on that? And so somebody starts to push his idea, and then somebody else says, well, why are you trying to push your idea on us? And then they all get into an argument about the argument. And the most amazing confusions come about, but sometimes they all see what idiots they're being. And then they learn to live together in a really open and spontaneous way.
I am a cheater, a thief, a liar. But not like you think. I have metastatic breast cancer, and I pretend that I'm fine, but I'm tricking my cancer. I'm yanking back more moments, memories, with Enhertu. Enhertu is for adults whose HER2 positive or HER2 low breast cancer cannot be removed by surgery or is metastatic, and who have received a prior treatment, or whose cancer has come back during or within 6 months of ending treatment. Enhertu helped people live longer than other medicines. Your doctor will do tests to ensure Enhertu is right for you. Enhertu can cause serious side effects, like lung problems that may lead to death, low white blood cell counts that are common and sometimes severe, and problems with your heart pumping blood. Tell your doctor right away if you have new or worsening shortness of breath, trouble breathing, signs of infection, cough, fever, chills, feeling tired, swelling of ankles or legs, irregular heartbeat, sudden weight gain, dizziness, or loss of consciousness. Enhertu can harm your unborn baby. Talk to your doctor about pregnancy, breastfeeding, and effective birth control. Ask about other side effects. With Enhertu, all that is mundane, magical, mine. Sure, metastatic breast cancer will try to take it all, but not today.
Hey TikTok, it's Alan Walker, and if you want to get this or this, search Alan Walker on TikTok and tap the banner right now.
There was a very interesting dinner party once where the Zen master was present, and there was a geisha girl who served so beautifully and had such style that he suspected she must have some Zen training. And after a while, when she paused to fill his sake cup, he bowed to her and said, I'd like to give you a present. And she said, I would be most honored. And he took the iron chopsticks that are used for the hibachi, the charcoal brazier, moving the charcoal around. He picked up a piece of red-hot charcoal and gave it to her. Well, she had very long sleeves on her kimono. She whirled the sleeves around her hands and took the hot charcoal, withdrew to the kitchen, dumped it, and changed her kimono because it was burnt through. Then she came back into the room, and after a suitable interval, she stopped before the Zen master and bowed to him and said, I would like to give you, sir, a present. And he said, I would be very much honored. Of course, he was wearing a kimono, something like this. And so she picked up a piece of coal and offered it to him. He immediately produced a cigarette and said, "Thank you, that's just what I needed." Now, you know, in the same way that we have this in our culture, certain people who are comedians, who know how to make jokes and gags in a completely unprepared situation, face them with anything, and they somehow come through. So that is exactly the same thing in a special domain as Zen. Only a master of Zen does this in every life situation. But the important thing is to be able to do this This is the secret. You must remember, you can't make a mistake. Now, that's a very difficult thing to do. Because from childhood up, we have had to conform to a certain social game. And if you're going to conform to this game, you can make mistakes or not make mistakes. So this thing has gone into us all the time. You must do the right thing. There's certain conduct appropriate here, there's certain conduct appropriate there. And that sticks in us and gives us a double self all our lives long because we never grow up. Do you realize that the whole of life plays a game, which is a childhood game? There are three kinds of people: top people, middle people, and bottom people. And there can't be any middle people unless there are bottom people and top people. There can't be any top people unless there are middle and bottom people. And so it goes. And everybody's trying to be in a top set. Well, if they're going to be there, there's got to be someone in a bottom set. And the people who do the right thing and the people who do the wrong thing. Here in Sausalito, we have this very, very plainly. There are the right people, the nice people who live up on the hill. Then there are the nasty people who live down here on the waterfront, and they grow beards, and they wear blue jeans, and they smoke marijuana. And whereas the other people on the top of the hill drive Cadillacs and have wall-to-wall carpeting and nicely mowed lawns, and their particular kind of poison is alcohol. Now, the people who live on the top of the hill know that they're nice people. But they wouldn't know they were nice people unless they had some nasty people to compare themselves with. Every in-group requires an out-group, whereas the nasty people think they are the real far-out people, whereas those people, those hillbillies, are squares. And they wouldn't be able to feel far out unless there were squares. See? These things simply go together. But when that is not seen, we play the games of getting on top of things all the time. And so we're in a constant state of competition as to, if it's not I'm stronger than you, it's I'm wiser than you, I'm more loving than you, I'm more tolerant than you, I'm more sophisticated than you. It doesn't matter what it is, but this constant competition is going on. In terms of that competition, we can, of course, lose place and in that sense make mistakes. But what a Zen student is a person who is not involved in the status game.
When exploring new credit cards, you should know what you're getting into. With hundreds of offers, Credit Karma curates relevant options for you and shows you approval odds, so it's easier to find your way to the right card for you. Intuit Credit Karma.
That's the real meaning of a monk. He is not keeping up with the Joneses. And to be a master, he must get to the point where he's not trying to be a master. The whole idea of your being better than anybody else simply doesn't make any sense at all. It is totally meaningless. Because you see everybody manifesting the marvel of the universe in the same way as the stars do. And the water, and the winds, and the animals. And you see them all as being in their right places and not being able really to make mistakes, although they may think they're making mistakes or not making mistakes and playing all these competitive games. But that's their game. Now, I only say if that game begins to bore you and it begins to trouble you and give you ulcers and all kinds of things, then you raise the problem of getting out of it. And therefore you start to become interested in things like Zen. That is simply a symptom of your growing in a certain direction, where you are tired of playing a certain kind of game. You are as naturally flowing in another direction as if a tree were putting out a new branch. So because you say, oh, well, we people are interested in higher things, you see, that depends still on the differentiation of rank between the superior and the inferior people. But when you begin to see through that and grow out of that, you don't think anymore of this superior and inferior classification. You don't think we are spiritual people who attend to higher things as distinct from these morons who are only interested in beer and television. The trouble with the human being is, like the trouble with certain animals, like the dinosaur, who evolved to the point where he was so big that he had to have two brains, a higher self in the head and a lower self in the rump. And the difficulty was to get these two brains coordinated. But we have exactly the same trouble. And we are suffering from a kind of jitters that comes from being two-brained. Now, you see, I'm not saying that that jitters is bad. It's a potential step in evolution and an opportunity of growth. But remember, in the process of growth, the oak is not better than the acorn. Because what does it do? It produces acorns. Or you could say, just like I sometimes love to say, that a chicken is one egg's way of becoming others. So an oak is an acorn's way of becoming other acorns. Where is the point of superiority? The first verse of that poem I just quoted, the flowering branches grow naturally, some short, some long. The first verse is, in the landscape of spring, there is nothing superior and nothing inferior. The flowering branches are naturally, some short, some long. So that's the point of view of being an outcast, in the sense of being outside the taking seriously of being involved in the social game, and therefore being threatened by making mistakes, of doing the wrong thing. That is to say, of carrying into adult life one's childhood conditioning, where somebody is constantly yammering at you to play the game. So therefore, the preachers and the teachers take the same attitude towards their adult congregations that parents take to children, and lecture them and tell them what they should do. And judges in courts feel also entitled to give people lectures because they say those criminal types haven't grown up, but neither have the judges. It takes two to make a quarrel. So one can begin to think in a new way, in the polarity thinking, instead of being stuck with the competitive thinking of the good guys and the bad guys, the cops and the robbers, capitalists and the communists, all these things, which are simply childishness. Now, of course, you recognize that the moment I say that, it's like talking in English in order to show that the English language has limitations. And I am talking in a language that seems competitive to show that the competitive game has limitations. As if I were saying to all you cats here, look, I have something to tell you that is, and if you get this, you'll be in a better position than you were before you heard it. But I cannot speak to this group or this society or this language-speaking culture without using the language, the gestures, the customs, etc. that you have.
Not everything in Silicon Valley or any industry or life for that matter need be portrayed as home runs or strikeouts, success or failure. It's so ridiculous that it's portrayed that way, but it's what sells newspapers, so it's what you read about. The most successful people I know are divorced, and they tell me it wasn't worth it. Don't do it. Don't sacrifice your families. Hold your children up high as your greatest inventions, because they are. I invented something that many of you use every day. You don't know it. It's buried in the enterprise, but I know it, and I know how it feels. And I'll tell you, it doesn't compare to every day holding that one's happy and healthy little hand. And by the way, don't step on anyone's neck to advance your cause. Don't sue anyone and try not to get sued. You'll sleep better at night. I've never been a party to a lawsuit in my technology career, and amen to that. My wife and I don't put work before our daughter or each other. Engineers in my company with similar families and I have been together most of our careers. We don't waste time commuting to offices. We don't have each other over for dinner. We don't have holiday parties. We get it done, and then we see our families. The Union of Concerned Scientists just forecasted that nearly 4,400 homes in Marin County alone are going to be completely underwater in less than 30 years due to sea level rise. So my generation, your generation, we're going to have to do something. For now, I keep searching for ideas, like taking our daughter to school on an electric tandem bicycle. We count the idling cars as we pass in traffic. We wave to them. They used to wave to us, but we're getting a little annoying now, so they kind of just, But it's something. It's something that we can do. Maybe you'll have an idea about attacking global warming, or maybe you'll have an idea about attacking poverty, or maybe you'll have an idea about attacking truth in news reporting. Maybe you'll do none of those things, but maybe you'll speak from your heart authentically in front of the person that you're going to marry, and maybe you'll be inspiring. In an increasingly unrecognizable world, my career trajectory should be recognizable to you. This means you can do what I've done. You can have this life. You can be happy in your career and your family. And if you want the world to know your name, well, then I applaud you. I really do. The world needs you. And I'll wish you every success. If you're willing to sacrifice it all, bet it all, blow out the curve, just remember my name as your backup plan. Do not go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path, and leave a trail.
Want to stop hair loss in its tracks? Through Hims.com, you can explore a range of options that work best for you, so you can grow visibly thicker and fuller hair. Get back your robust head of hair in just 3 to 6 months with doctor-trusted ingredients like finasteride, minoxidil, and a blend of supplements that support healthy hair. 3 in 4 Hims customers say they wish they started using hair treatment earlier. Stop hair loss and regrow hair. Get started today at Hims.com.
The Zen masters try to get around this by doing things, suddenly, that people just don't get. Well, what is this? Therefore, that is the reason why, this is the real reason why, Zen cannot be explained. You have to make, as it were, a jump from the valuation game of better people and worse people, in groups and out groups. And you can only make it by seeing that they all are mutually interdependent. So if we take this situation, let's say I would be talking to you and saying, look, I have some very special thing that you've got to take notice of. Therefore, I am the in-group, and I'm the teacher, and you are the out-group. I know perfectly well that I cannot be the teacher unless you come here. And so that my status and my position is totally dependent on you. It isn't something you see, therefore, I have first, and then you get. These things arise mutually. So if you wouldn't come, I wouldn't talk. I wouldn't know what to say. Because I borrowed your language. So that is the insight, that things go together. Then, when you see that and aren't in competition, then you don't make a mistake, because you don't dither. When I first learned the piano and played these wretched scales, the teacher beside me had a pencil in her hand, and she hit my fingers every time I made a wrong note. Consequent was I never learned to read music, because I hesitated too long to play the note on time. Because I was always, is this pencil going to land? See? And that gets built into your psyche. And so people are always, although they're adults and nobody is clubbing them around and screaming at them any longer, they hear the echoes of that screaming mama or that bombinating papa in the back of their heads all their life long. And so they adopt the same attitudes to their own children, and the farce continues. Because there is no, I don't say that you shouldn't lay down the law to children if you want them to play the social game. But if you lay down the law to your children, you must make provision later in life for them to be liberated, to go through a process of curing them from the bad effects of education. But you can't do that unless you too grow up, you see, as we grow up. Says I, including myself. So that is the thing. Now, therefore, in the Zen scene, you would think that the master, as we know him and as we read about him, is an extremely authoritarian figure. That's the way he deliberately comes on at the beginning. He puts up a terrific show of being an awful dragon. And this screens out all sorts of people who don't have somehow the nerve to get into the work. But once you are in, a very strange change takes place. The master becomes the brother. He becomes the affectionate helper of all those students, and they love him as they would a brother, rather than respect him as they would a father. And therefore the students and masters, they make jokes about each other. They have a very curious kind of social relationship, which has all the outward trappings of the authoritarian. But everybody knows on the inside that that's a joke. Liberated people have to be very cool. Otherwise, in a society which doesn't believe in equality and cannot possibly practice it, they would be considered extremely subversive. And therefore, great Zen masters wear purple and gold and carry scepters and sit in thrones. And all this is carried on to cool it. And the outside world knows that they're all right. They have discipline, they have order, they're Perfectly fine. Having discussed basic principles of what Zen is about, I'm passing on to the more practical side of it. A Zen monastery is not a monastery in the Christian sense. It's more like a theological seminary, except that it practices more than it teaches.
Hey TikTok, it's Alan Walker, and if you want to get this or this, search Alan Walker on TikTok and tap the banner right now.
People everywhere are recommending GoodRx.
My neighbor showed me the app. It's helped me save on my kids' allergy pills.
GoodRx can save you a lot of money.
A typical institution consists of a campus. And on the campus, there are many buildings. First of all, around the edges, you will invariably find independent temples that were founded in times past by noble families, because one of the things that the Buddhists did when they came to the Far East was they exploited ancestor worship. This was very clever of them. This being the great religion of China, the Buddhist priests performed services like requiem masses for the repose of the souls or for good reincarnations for one's ancestors, and they made quite a thing out of that. And so they have memorial services for the departed, and that's one of the principal functions of temples in Japan. People don't go to temple in the same way as Westerners go to church. They make pilgrimages to temples. And say at a great temple like Eiheiji, you will find on a Sunday morning, or practically any morning, a swarm of about 500 people attending the 4 a.m. service of chanting the Buddhist scriptures. But they're kind of in and out of their temples. They have special services. They have memorial services, weddings, funerals, or everything like that. But they don't have a parish kind of church community as we find it in the West. Although when Buddhism, through the Japanese immigrants, exports itself to the United States, they immediately copy the Protestant church institution and sing, "Buddha loves me, this I know, for the sutra tells me so." It's terrible. And all the young men, Nisei, who have never been in Japan, one thing they can't stand is sutra chanting, because they don't know what it means, and the priests don't know what it means a lot of the time. And but it's beautiful to listen to, and they haven't got an educated Western ear yet to appreciate that kind of Oriental music. Well, now, aside from these many temples, each of which is in charge of a priest with his family, and some of them are having a hard time making a go of it these days, so they've become restaurants for very elegant food, or museums, and all sorts of things. Now, the guts of a Zen temple is what's called the Sodo. So, in Japanese, is the Sangha, the order of followers of the Buddha. Do simply means hall. So the Sangha hall, or Sodo, is the center. And this consists of a number of rooms, but the main one, the actual Sodo itself, is a large, long, spacious room with platforms on either side and a wide passage down the center. The platforms are 6 feet wide, and each contains a number of tatami mats, which measure 6 by 3. And every monk is assigned to a mat. And
Did you probably heard as a child fool me once, shame on you. Fooled me twice, shame on me. How many times has the West been fooled by these terrorists?
Agreed. And, I do agree that it's a great idea to have this run by the Congress, because I do like the idea that the Congress, when we started this country, the Congress had all the power, really, and very little was given to George Washington. And
by his request, by the way.
That's right. American Cincinnatus, right? He did not go after power. But anyway, the point. So I do think, having congressional Congress okay it I think is important. And I have a practical question. I don't know if anyone knows the answer to this, but if these nuclear things are out in the middle of the desert, why not just drop a nuclear bomb after you kind of soften things up, maybe? Since there aren't very many people there that are going to be harmed. Just infrastructure, nuclear infrastructure.
So Dominic makes a very important point that I would like to echo in the chat, which is linked above. Did JFK request congressional approval for the naval blockade of Cuba? No. President John F. Kennedy did not get formal congressional approval before implementing the naval blockade of Cuba during the Cuban Missile Crisis in October 1962. What did Kennedy do instead? Dominic writes, he informed Congress, but he acted unilaterally as commander-in-chief. But see, he did talk to Congress. And most members of Congress, Dominic points out, publicly supported the president. And he writes that the moment became a precedent for unilateral executive military action used by later presidents. But he's not, this president, discussing any of this with Congress. I don't think he needs the consent of Congress, but he needs the informal consent, I guess, of Congress. And Anson, by the way, agrees in the chat with Dominic's point. Thank you, Les.
Well, can I just say one more thing?
Sure.
And so we have to look at what the alternative is. If they have a bomb, then Iran is a much bigger problem to everybody, including the people in Iran. And if we're trying to get the Middle East stabilized, a nuclear armed Iran is the opposite of that.
Thank you, Les. We'll now go to David.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of conundrums here that we're facing as a country, and with regard to Trump's leadership, with regard to the way he's been hemmed in to tacitly give support to Netanyahu, while at the same time pandering to the base, to the Tucker Carlsons of the world. But I thought Tucker brought up some interesting points, Gary, and that was highlighting the fact that Ted Cruz did not have a whole lot of command, not just of the population of Iran, but their ethnic makeup. Not just them being a Muslim Persian country, but the other cultures that also exist in a place of 90 million people. And that's important to understand because from a standpoint of the language and the way the rhetoric that's being bantered about, it resonates and has similarities to the run-up to the Iraq War. And we saw how, George W. Bush spoke about this big threat, this massive threat to our security. He put Colin Powell front and center, taking this story to the UN. And we saw the disastrous outcome of that campaign. And so are we also entering into a very similar, are they setting a trap
to enter into a Gulf War II here with regard to a country to be more radicalized, get the support of the other aspects of the Middle East. So, I think it's important, as much as I'm not a big MAGA supporter, I think their voice is very important with regard to checking Trump's ability to throw us into something that could have very protracted and massive consequences, not just to the loss of life to the Iranian people and the potential further destruction, or further, not destruction, but damage to the Israeli people in their country, but also to the possible displacement of Iranians, causing massive refugee situations that we've seen in the Syrian campaigns. We're seeing, obviously, the fact that there may not be the ability to do a regime change, the likes of which the Iranian people deserve. And again, I'm not a fan of this regime either, Gary. This is a regime that's repressed its people, that's looted its economy, with the backroom deals with China, the shadow economy that exists there. And so there's a whole lot of reasons why this has to happen. But I think the ultimate campaign would be another potential Iraq 2.0 if we don't get it right. So those are some of my talking points on that front. I mean, at the same time, we're seeing Trump call out his Tassie Gabbard, saying that Iran's not necessarily close to having a nuke. So the messaging, the talking points are kind of all over the map. That's not good for the cohesion of a big decision like this. So, I just think we need to really take a step back. I know we're already en route there on some level with regard to the massive deployment. So maybe we're sort of playing a game of wait and see here. But yes, I'd like nothing more than to see the regime toppled. The Middle East should be a lot safer with one less state actor with a nuclear weapon. But keep in mind, Gary, that a lot of these countries like Iran, North Korea, and even Pakistan, who obtained a nuclear weapon in the early 70s as a byproduct of what India did in terms of their nuclear campaign, these countries feel they're in desperate throes to secure themselves by any means necessary, because they can't compete with conventional warfare, the likes of which Israel just demonstrated, the likes of how we've demonstrated our campaigns in Gulf War I, not necessarily Gulf War II to some extent. But yeah, these countries don't have a way to resist. This is an allied military response to their sovereignty. So I don't think that ever goes away here, particularly if we destabilize Iran in such a way that it creates a more reactionary response to what it is we're attempting to do here. So those are my talking points today, and I hope it made some sense. Thank you.
Making one's point by embarrassing a person who you have invited onto your platform is not the proper way of making your point. Make your point through argumentation, but not by ridiculing a U.S. senator or anyone for that matter. This was a low point in the career of Tucker Carlson. He made his point. He made his point that the senator doesn't know the population of Iran. And therefore, anything that the president might have to say, the senator might have to say, can be discounted, because he just proved that the senator is incompetent, and his point of view on this matter must be discarded.